Thank you, Senator Smith. Senator Antic.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise this afternoon to speak briefly in support of the Wine Australia Amendment Label Directory Bill 2019. And I do so as a proud South Australian. And I would argue, Madam Acting Deputy President, that my home state of South Australia produces not only the best wine in the country, but also arguably the best wine in the world, in the spirit of bipartisanship with my colleague Senator Smith. During the recent bushfires, the world watched as some of our best wine regions in the country were ravaged, and this devastated some of our communities. However, it also brought out some of the best parts of our country and our communities, such as the spirit of mateship and a sense of community. The fires saw something in the order of 30%, or around about a third, of Adelaide Hills production destroyed, and more than 60 growers and producers in the Adelaide Hills impacted. The region lost something in the order of $20 million worth of wine, which in broad terms translates to approximately 794,000 cases. It will take years for these grape growers and winemakers to recover, and that's why it's important that we continue to support these local economies and the communities upon which those businesses rely. And it's pleasing, however, to say, Madam Acting Deputy President, that despite all of this adversity, South Australia is back open for business. We need to help these winemakers and grape growers in every way possible, and I'm a passionate advocate for supporting South Australian produce and, of course, Australian produce as well. And the Morrison Coalition Government is backing business and continuing to assist our wine regions with this bill, which is designed to stop copycat wine producers from taking advantage. And the bill will go some way to combating that very immediate and very present threat. Australia is, of course, a world leader in the production of premium agriculture products generally. We're renowned for producing premium-level food and wine in this country, which is highly sought after by consumers the world over. And the Australian wine sector contributes something in the order of $40 billion annually to the Australian economy itself. There are 65 wine regions in Australia and approximately 2,500 wineries with around about 6,000 grape growers making up those numbers. And the Australian wine growing areas broadly stretch from southern Queensland to Tasmania, down to Margaret River in the west, and of course in my home state of South Australia, as I've just described, the Adelaide Hills, and of course the wonderful McLaren Vale and Barossa growing regions as well. Now, worldwide demand for Australian wine created a boom in vineyard plantings in the 1990s, and that boom has continued, and the short-term outlook, at least for the wine sector, is positive. However, there is competition from larger wine-producing countries all over the globe, and that will continue to place pressure on domestic producers in this country. And the success of Australian wine exports depends partly at least on the maintenance of our internationally recognised reputation for quality and integrity, and that's supported by Wine Australia's regulatory activities. And the good name of our wine brands is particularly important for showcasing the range of wines we have on offer and that secondary process of building trust with the consumer. And it's true to say that although we often equate the issues of piracy and forgery with other industries such as the movie industry and sometimes the pharmaceutical industries, unfortunately the incidence of counterfeit Australian wine being sold around the world is a very real issue, and it is seemingly on the rise. And in fact, the discovery of 14,000 bottles of fake Penfolds wine, a great South Australian winery, for sale in China in November 2018 highlighted the extent of that problem and the trajectory of that problem. These items apparently were discovered online at severely reduced prices, and that seemingly triggered the awakening to this issue partly. So the existence of the counterfeit trade reduces confidence in the genuine Australian article, and that confidence therefore translates into the industry itself. And the industry has approached government and asked for stronger regulatory controls to attempt to deter the export of copycat wine from Australia. And those copycat wines, of course, are products which are exported from this country with labels that seek to mimic elements of the brands that they represent for their commercial gain, and therefore unfairly benefit from the reputation of those brands and the good reputation of the Australian wine producers who produce them. So a label directory was proposed by the industry as a useful way to assist brand owners to protect their intellectual property rights, and then, of course, by extension, the reputation of the wine itself. And the bill will establish a label directory as part of Wine Australia's export controls as a deterrent to exporters of wine and other grape products who do seek to unfairly benefit from the reputation of Australian brands. And it will provide brand owners with the use of a searchable database of images of labels that can be used to find labels potentially infringing on the intellectual property rights of the grape growers and the wineries who rely upon them. And it will also enable them to undertake civil action against copycat exporters through the Australian legal system. The amendments to this Act will therefore enable Wine Australia to impose additional requirements on wine exporters as a condition of approval to export grape products from Australia. And the requirements will be part of Wine Australia's grape product registration process. Failure to comply with that process will mean that grape products, including wine, can't be exported, but there will be no impacts for importers of wine into Australia. Is not in that orbit. So, with the framing of the recent bushfires and the issues of affecting some of the wineries in this country, this bill is another important step, and therefore of tremendous importance to the integrity and the continuing confidence in the wine industry in this country, including in my home state. And it adds one more string to Wine Australia's export bow, if you like, representing yet another mechanism which the industry can use to properly control the trade of counterfeit and copycat wines. And as a senator for South Australia, the home of the finest wines in the country, I commend this bill to the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Antic. Senator Ciccone.